A century after the fall of King James II, the 13 American colonies on the other side of the Atlantic determined their rights as Englishmen were being infringed by the tyrannical King George and declared themselves free and independent states in July 1776. Forced out of Boston, British redcoats held New York City for the entire war, but the English were ultimately defeated by the Americans, who were led by the brilliant General George Washington, who had formed a pivotal alliance with the French. The revolutionaries founded the United States of America and adopted a democratic constitution, triggering a wave of political change around the world. That wave crashed onto the shores of France in 1789, when an overtaxed people embarked on a violent 10-year revolution to overthrow the monarchy and establish a republic. Inspired by the Americans and the ideas of the European Enlightenment, the Bastille was stormed, the rights of man and citizen were declared, feudalism was abolished, democracy was established, freedom of religion was embraced, and civil rights were won for blacks, gays, and Jews. Although the revolution included the Reign of Terror and set the stage for the dictatorial conquests of Napoleon, the dynamic France that emerged became a vital beacon of liberty. The French Revolution sought to benefit humanity as a whole and is one of the most pivotal moments in modern history, accelerating the rise of republics and democracies throughout the world. 2 years after the French Revolution began, blacks in the French colony of Saint-Domingue on the island of Hispaniola launched history's greatest slave uprising. In cooperation with their former biracial rivals, a massive black insurgency threw aside the plantation system and, under the command of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, successfully ended the revolution by defeating the French army in the Battle of Vertières. This defining moment in racial history challenged long-held beliefs of black inferiority. The rebels' organization and tenacity shocked and frightened slaveholders, and the Haitian Revolution is the only slave uprising in history to lead to the founding of a free state ruled by non-whites and former captives. Taking their cue from the Americans, French, and Haitians, Latin America rose up against their Portuguese and Spanish colonial rulers so suddenly that every country on the mainland but two gained their independence in the 15 years between 1810 and 1825. Back in Europe, 1830 saw a slew of revolutions around the continent. Belgium seceded from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Swiss peacefully took to the streets to force constitutional reform, France overthrew King Charles X, Italy unsuccessfully attempted to unite, Portugal endured a civil war, and there was a failed revolution in Poland against the Tsar of Russia. 18 years later, the most widespread revolutionary wave in history hit Europe and parts of Latin America, as democratic movements took aim at dismantling feudal structures once and for all. Again, France provided the spark when it brought down the Orléans monarchy. Before long, over 50 countries were experiencing unrest, but amazingly, there was no coordination between the various revolutions. There didn't need to be. Squalor, famine, and disease were rampant, and a groundswell of dissatisfaction had spread throughout the poor and working classes of Europe. Loosely formed revolutionary coalitions broke down, and tens of thousands were killed. Even more fled, with many crossing the Atlantic to the United States. When the dust settled, what initially seemed like a series of failed movements turned out to be a period of significant upheaval. Serfdom was abolished in Austria and Hungary, Denmark's absolute monarchy ended, and parliamentary democracy was introduced in the Netherlands.